It was always a childhood dream of mine to drive a Lamborghini. I just never thought that the first one that I'd get behind the wheel of would be an SUV, but that's what we're here with, the 2019 Lamborghini Urus, and we're here to test it on both track and off-road. Let's see how it did. Any discussion about the Urus starts with the numbers. Under the hood, a twin-turbo V8, the first one from Lamborghini, and it makes 650 horsepower. Now that's enough to sling this car from 0 to 62 miles an hour in just 3.6 seconds, and it gives it a top speed of 190 miles an hour. 190 in an SUV sounds crazy. We didn't get anywhere close to that today, but after driving it, I do believe that I can get up that fast. The Urus does share some parts in common with other vehicles that are more well known, such as the Audi Q7, the Porsche Cayenne. It rides on one of Volkswagen's platforms called the MLB platform, and while it does share a platform with those other vehicles, there's enough done here to really differentiate this car from the others. It has a ton of work that's gone into the suspension, into the engine, and just the whole driving experience that really transforms it. It's really unlike any other SUV that I've driven on that platform. So during our testing of the Urus today, we got to test it in really three kind of distinct environments, two of which are kind of common for testing an SUV and one which really isn't. And we're going to start with that one, and that's on the track. Now the Urus is fast. That goes without saying, 650 horsepower under the hood. But what really surprised me about the Urus were two things, and that was its balance and its braking. Now, balance. It has something called active roll bar. It has basically a really smart suspension that works to mitigate body roll in all directions. So what the kind of byproduct of that is that the SUV stays really flat, whether you're cornering, whether you're accelerating, whether you're braking. You can kind of feel all that technology working underneath you, and it makes you feel really stable at speed and under heavy load. What also helps things is the all-wheel drive system, and the standard kind of torque split for it is 40 front, 60 rear, but Lamborghini says that changes all the time. Basically, the computers are always working, trying to find that optimal torque split for however you're driving. And on the track, in certain drive modes, that means that it really gets aggressive. They could send up to 89% of the torque to the rear wheels and 70% to the front wheels. So it's always moving power around to the right wheel to give you the most grip and the most power coming out of a curve. Now, there's one byproduct of this that's a little bit weird, and that is that this car doesn't actually feel that fast. The suspension does such a good job of mitigating body roll that even when you're accelerating and you're really moving, it doesn't quite feel like it. I was on the back straight of the track here at Thermal. I got up to about 110 miles an hour and it didn't really feel like it at all. Now, the second thing I mentioned, the braking. 17-inch rotors up front, 14-inch rotors in the rear. Those are pretty much the biggest kind of brakes that you can get. The Urus's brakes are powerful enough that they bring the car down to a stop really quickly. It goes down from 62 to 0 miles an hour, they say, in 33.7 meters, which for those of us who live in the United States, that's about 110 feet. And really good stopping power. We actually did an exercise where we started in a box, accelerated fully all the way up, slammed on the brakes as hard as you could to activate the ABS while doing an evasive maneuver, and it's incredibly stable in emergency situations. I was able to actually slam on the brakes, activate the ABS, turn the car, and avoid an obstacle in the road all at once without the car feeling out of sorts at all. Usually with SUVs, when you get really heavy on the brakes, they get pretty squirrely. This thing, really confident on the brakes, and that was actually one of the things that impressed me the most about the SUV. This suspension doesn't just do wonders on the track. The added stability is great on the street as well. The Urus rides over bumps in the roads like they don't really exist. And one of its drive modes, Strada, means street in Italian, and it actually tones down the throttle response as well as the exhaust. So you can actually kind of drive the Urus around incognito, which isn't really something you can do in another Lamborghini. And instead of turning all the heads, you'll turn maybe half of them. The final area in which we put the Urus through its paces today was off-road. In its off-road modes, it does raise the car up by about an inch to give it a bit more ground clearance. Now, we didn't do any rock crawling with it. We ran it through some gravel and sandy roads out here in the desert, and it did a really good job getting over bumps without jarring the car. And the other thing is, it's got enough power in it that you can kind of use the throttle to steer. So if you come into a corner on a gravel road pretty hot in this car, the transmission and the all-wheel drive system is smart enough. You put your foot down, you get a little sideways, and it just shoots you right out of the corner. It is really good on dirt. The SUV revolution is here, and it's even affecting companies like Lamborghini and Aston Martin, these ultra-luxurious high-performance car makers, which aren't able to get by anymore just making sports cars. But the good news is, Lamborghini seems to be pretty good at making SUVs. The 2019 Urus is on sale now for a cool 200 grand. And if you have that much money, you could find a vehicle that's capable on-road, off-road, and on the track all in one.